which is, I think, part of my resilience was grown from that, right? Like you're put in a situation where you're not the norm, but hey, who cares? Just keep on going with it. So he really did not care about that.
This is a podcast called Walk, Talk, Listen. An attempt to connect people and make this world a bit better by sharing opinions and experiences based on the belief that everyone's perspective is true, albeit partial. My name is Maurice Blom, and I would like to welcome you to yet another episode of Walk, Talk, Listen. Okay, good day, everybody. This is another episode of the podcast Walk, Talk, Listen. And as always, I'm delighted with today's guest who will introduce herself. Rima, please go ahead.
Hi, thank you. Thank you, Maurice, for allowing me to be part of your podcast session. Though I've known, you for a while, this is the first time I'm actually being formally interviewed as a guest in your podcast, which is exciting. So my name is Rima Alshawkani. I'm currently your coworker at JLI. I am the chief financial officer currently, and have lots and lots of conversations with you. I am so this is like my professional side. My personal is well, my name is Rima, as you know. I'm a mother of two children, ages 15 and 13. I am a Yemeni American, so have a dual citizen. I grew up in various parts of the world, which we'll get around to later in the podcast today. Um, I like to do a lot of things. I like to walk, so this is ideal for the Walk, Talk, Listen podcast. So this is recently joined the gym. So let's see if the running part is going to pick up later. But yes, I like to spend time with friends and socialize and pursue any exciting opportunity that comes by, such as World Cup and concerts and picnics and, just living life day by day is my motto.
Oh, cool. And you, sorry, I did not realize if you mentioned where you are living now, because you live in the DMV, as they say in the States, but we have listeners from all over the world and might not know what that means and where it is.
Yeah. So I'm the DMV, which is short for DC, Maryland, Virginia. It's a tri-state area because they're just all connected by the Potomac River. So it tends to people like to live in one state and work in another. So for example, JLI is based in DC. Though we are a virtual organization, but the registration, and we used to previously go to in person to an office there in DC, but I live in Northern Virginia. Um, which I love. I don't see myself living anywhere else.
Okay, but you were not born there, right? You
I was born
alluded
in
already to
Yeah,
that,
I was
yeah.
born in New York.
Mm-hmm.
Can't see myself as a New Yorker though.
How
My
long were you there then? Only for birth,
uh
and then
well, we were there. So my father at that time, he was at the UN, and it was a 4-year period. So it was like, yeah. So I think I spent the first 3 to 4 years of my life, and in
okay.
New York, and where my sister was also born, who is now a New Yorker. She loves it. I don't. I go to visit, but that's it. or
Yeah.
or meet you in person. Yes.
But so do you remember still things because you were 4 years old? Sometimes there are memories of New York or not.
So no, I don't. My memory is very bad. Like generally in life, people will come up to me like, "Hey, Emma," and I have no recollection of who they are. So now one thing about me is that I have very bad memory. So no. But I can recall sometime in my later years, like maybe from 9 years old and onwards, I can remember some stuff, but not yet, not my primary years.
Okay, let us slowly go there. But tell us first, so okay, the first 4 years in New York, and where did you go then after that? Because your dad, I know this because you've told me this before, had a profession where he would travel,
Yeah.
go from one city to another, right? Tell us a bit about that.
Yeah. So my father was a Yemeni diplomat.
Mhm.
So he was like assigned by the foreign ministry of Yemen, not to certain countries, depending on what he's assigned to. So after New York, we went back to Yemen for like a few years, like 1 or 2 years, and then we were assigned to Ethiopia for a year. So this is in Addis Ababa in the capital. I think that's the capital. So that's where like the embassies are. Um, it was only a year. I was a first grader. I vaguely remember my school, but I remember it was very beautiful, like lush, big trees and like that, just the scenery of the beauty around us. And of course, with nature comes a lot of creatures. So, you know, snakes, bugs, roaches. It was something that my mother cannot handle. We had to do things really, really, really like, naturally. So we had to get our own chicken, a live chicken, if we wanted to eat. And I remember there's a space in the kitchen where you have to slaughter the kitchen in the house for it to be, consumed. And that's that, of course, that memory stays with you when you see something like that happening right in front of you. So it was exciting for me, but my mother could not handle that. So she finished the year and then she was told my father, we need to leave. We cannot continue.
So was that different than in Yemen?
No. So, well, yes, yes, because so in Yemen, everything is done like outside, sort of. So we lived in the capital in Yemen. We had sort of a more modern lifestyle than the village life, right? So
Gotcha.
people in
Yeah.
the villages are the ones that go through these experiences that we saw in Addis Ababa. It was so in Yemen it was we were in a private school. It was sort of in a bubble kind of life, where we weren't exposed to that. So it's not and the base we were in the capital, we had more resources, we had more. So yeah, it wasn't like it's like living in Cairo, right? Modern day Cairo, where it's not you have all the resources you need. So yeah, so my mom told my father that we had to leave and get reassigned somewhere else, so she'll go back to Yemen and take the kids. I remember loving it, but you can't say something as a 6-year-old, right? You don't have a say. So then we moved. He requested reassignment, and after that, he was reassigned to Belgium, and that's where I spent my elementary school years in Brussels. That's where I learned my French, which I have to brush up on because I've forgotten most. I mean, I know some sort of spoken French, but not really. I can get by if you throw me on the street in France. I once at Germany, actually. I tried figuring out directions in a train and I was lost. And the people I asked wouldn't speak to me when I spoke to them in English, but then when I spoke to them in French, they responded, which was interesting. Um, anyway, so then we spent our time in Brussels, like so my primary elementary school years. Really loved it, learned all the skills that a normal elementary school kid would learn. Um,
Did you go to an international school there as well, or the regular school?
I did go to an international school.
Okay.
So the primary language was English, and then of course French. Um, I remember one of our field trip was to go on a 2-week skiing at the Alps, which was amazing, but scary. But that was my only skiing experience in my life. So, so, so if you tell me, if you ask me, do you know how to ski? I'm like, yeah, I skied in the Alps, right? But
So did you do that with your sister
so
as
yes,
well?
it was me and
How
my.
many siblings do you have?
Okay, so yeah, so I'm the oldest of 6 people, 6 kids.
Okay.
I'm so it's me and my sister who were born in New York, and then my brother, the third child, was born in Yemen when we went back after New
Okay.
York. Fourth brother was born uh, in Belgium, and the fifth in Yemen, and then the sixth baby is here in DCU when we came back to settle.
Okay. Wow.
But the
Okay.
baby is 23 years old now and in dental school. So but we still call her the baby.
I do, I think she doesn't really appreciate it, probably.
No.
Yeah. But let us go back to Belgium. So, those school trips to ski, where you went skiing, you did that with your sister, or was that alone? Or
No, so she was, 2 years younger than me. So no, that was like
okay,
it was a whole school. It was just for my grade.
okay,
Um, I remember being homesick when we went away because we went to France for that field. I mean, the location of Brussels is excellent because every other country is 2 hours away. So our
mm,
weekend trips were, let's go to France for the weekend, or let's go to Holland for the weekend. It's all a 2 hour drive. It's like going to, I don't know, downtown Virginia, right? It's not, and you're in another country. So it was amazing. I did not appreciate it at the time, right? As an elementary school kid, you just want to stay home and watch your cartoons. But my parents would drag me, and I have pictures of me sulking at the top of the Eiffel Tower because I did not want to be there. And I have to bring that to you. It's like, I'm just not happy to be here. But then you appreciate it later in life. Like, this is no, always, people would like the opportunity, and yet you're here sulking. Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Mm.
yeah. Yeah, you had a lot of experiences when you were young because of the fact that you lived in different places and you
Yeah.
could go. Um, but then tell me, you know, did you? So it was easy for you to go around as a child, uh, or was it more from house to school and back, or did you have freedom? How was that? And how were how were the differences then? Maybe you tell that if you compare living in Yemen or Ethiopia and Brussels. How was that for you as a child in terms of
Yeah.
being allowed to walk around, or was it very protected? You mentioned the bubble in Yemen already, right? So yeah, tell
Yeah.
us a bit about it.
Well, so okay, let's go one by one. So in Ethiopia, we were living in so it was at the time there was a lot of political insecurity, and given that my father was a political person, right, of another country, we had to live in a secured compound. So our movement was very limited. So it was really from the house to the school and back. We did not really venture out or know anything else. um and then again, I was only 6 years old. So that's didn't have much freedom. In Yemen, and I will get back to the next time we lived in Yemen, but not this time. Okay. So in Yemen, again, we were children. So our only movement was also school and back. And then we had a large backyard, and we set up like a little basketball. We invite the kids over, all the neighborhood kids or our cousins, or so, we at that time it was no, it was actually the second time we lived in Yemen. There was that movie that came out. It was a hockey movie. Uh the one where it's like, we are the champions of the world. I had the Mighty Ducks, I think. That was the
Okay.
name of the movie.
Okay.
Okay. It was all about hockey. Now, Yemen, right? We don't have ice or snow or any kind of hockey knowledge or equipment. So we turned the backyard into sort of a hockey rink, right? Not ice, just the normal cement, okay? But we use our rollerblades as ice skates,
Hmm.
and then our tennis rackets as the hockey sticks.
Wow.
And use the ball and just our imagination. And we're like, hey, we turned it into a whole game. So the
Nice.
ingenuity of creative thinking in kids, right?
Hmm.
I just remember it was the funnest time. Um, so yeah, but then in Belgium, that's when I had more freedom as a kid, right? This is when I was a little bit older. So I had more the ability to just venture out and take my bike and get lost.
Mm.
And at that time, it's not your mom cannot call you to come back. There's no cell phones or anything. So as long as I'm back before dark, you're fine. So I would always get when I came back to Belgium 30 years later, I would remember, oh, this is where I had my first fall on my bike. Oh, this is where I scraped my knee really bad. Oh, this is where I. So I have all those memories of places of where I've ventured out as a child, which is
Mm.
not a lot. Well,
Wait, so you were around from 9 to 12 years old or younger?
yes. So about that time frame, yes, because I
Okay.
returned to Yemen. I was 12 after
Mm.
11 or 12. It was
Okay.
sixth grade or yes. So those my years in Belgium. After those years, we returned to Yemen, and that was like the longest time I've lived there as a child. I think it was 4 years. So after Belgium, we
Mm.
stayed in Yemen for 4 years, and that's where I learned my Arabic because I did not have any. I mean, my mother would speak to us in Arabic, but it was just very. We would respond in English. We didn't really understand much. So I remember going to school that first week in Yemen, also like a private school. Um, and I knew the kids were making fun of me, but I did not understand what they were saying. So I felt like I had to learn so that I know what these kids are saying about me. And I mean, the best part about that school was that a lot of kids who were in the foreign ministry used to go there. So similar background.
Mm.
So they knew that a lot of kids are non-Arabic speaking. So they had a special class for us where I would be, for example, in sixth grade, but I'm taking first grade Arabic, right? Or I would group it, and as you continue, as you evolve in your language, you get more condensed uh, education, right? To put you back up to where you should be. So I was up on my grade level after 3 years of doing that. So by the final year I was in Yemen, I had improved my Arabic, and now I am for my grade. I was on par with all the other kids, and actually took the foreign ministry exam and aced it. I got better than most of the kids there too.
We will go later. I will ask a question about your academic, you know, the achievement, etc. But if we still think about, you know, your ability to, go around, how was it in Yemen then? Because
Yeah.
it's not only a different country, but you also have a different age. You get into puberty, right? So
Yeah.
how was
So
that?
Yemen is a very patriarchal country where there is more freedom and flexibility for men rather than women and children. So, I mean, a woman tend to go from house to house, right? All the events are gender segregated. So that like even weddings. So there's like a women's party and then there's a men's party. Um, so there was not much movement like out in the street. Similarly, it was more about going to house or any school related events or any work related events. So but it's not really out. You're free to go out and about. Now, also, if you're from a certain political background, you have more restrictions, right? Because then there's like the risk of security and all that. So my father did not take that seriously. It's like he just liked the freedom of roaming around. He would take me as a child, right? And take me to buy fruits or to the grocery market and whatever, like just going around it, and I would remember clearly being the only female, right, in that whole market. And I would just be very conscious of that. And he wouldn't care, which is, I think, part of my resilience was grown from that, right? Like
Mm.
you're put in a situation where you're not the norm, but hey, who cares? Just keep on going with it. So he really did not care about that. Um, I remember holding on like really tightly to his leg, and he's like, "What? Just go get the apples, or go get the cucumbers from there," and he'd make me go out and get it on my own.
Mm.
Um, which in hindsight, this was a big learning move for me. It just made me to the person who I am right now. So we would go into these. There was some points where he would just go on his own, like to same thing, markets and everything. And at that time, there was a situation in the family slash politics slash everything where he was in a situation and he got kidnapped.
Wow.
It was common at that time for kidnappings to happen in Yemen for money, for land, for property. Um, so he was one. He got kidnapped because of a land situation, right? There was like some disagreements about who owned it, and they wanted it. So there was like some tribal complications happening, and they saw him without security, and they saw the opportunity, and they took him. And I think it was about a 2-week period where where he was kidnapped. I remember a house being full of people, my mom in a state of panic. Everybody trying to, my uncle's there, everybody's trying to figure out what to do. They're on the phone. Um, so, but I also knew, so kidnappers in Yemen treat their people very, very well. So they give them the best meat, they give them the best food, the best housing. They make sure they're very comfortable while they're arranging the deal that they need with the family. So the family is in high stress, but the person who's kidnapped, he's living the life. Even at some point, they offered to give him a wife to marry him off to, he would have come back with a second wife, if he stayed longer, probably. Um, so so they treat, so it was a well-known thing back in that time in Yemen. Also, some foreigners would go to try to get kidnapped to get that experience of how luxurious they've spent, right? Of the luxury that they had, how luxurious they were being treated.
You were around 13, 14 years at that
I
time,
was,
right?
yes.
Okay.
So I was as a teenager, so kind of knew what was happening, right? But then, like, I was also
Not really involved with the whole.
not really involved. Yeah.
Mhm.
Like, I would just see all these adults, right, in our house. He came back, you know, gained more pounds because he was being well fed. Comfortable, no work, no stress, no worry. He was being treated very, very well. My mother on the hand was a wreck. So he came back, things went back to normal. But it was an experience like, living in Yemen. This is one of the experiences you have. Um, so our, not as a result, but given like, the way we were brought up, it's like we had to be really in that bubble. So like we could not go anywhere where it's unknown, or we don't know who the people are, or um and all I really wanted was to go to my school and back, and go to my friends' houses and back, and invite my friends. I mean, at that age, this is really what your life is about, right? We didn't have any outside entertainment options. Like in Yemen, we don't have the movie theaters, we don't have bowling, we don't have like all the things that are available for kids here, or playgrounds, or I mean, we have so we have is people's backyards to play in, and this is just the norm in that time. There was no coffee shops, there's restaurants is unheard of to go at that time. I mean, there were some, but you just don't go, you go from house to house. So really, it's like a house living situation.
But it was different than what you had experienced in Brussels, right?
Yeah,
Where you went. So did you not miss that?
I did. So in the first
Mm.
year, I was very so for me, transitions in the beginning were very hard, right? So as a child, you're thrown from one country to another. And then often you have to learn the language of that country, right? So like you so English was always my constant language. I so that's what I consider as my primary language. Then going to Ethiopia, you kind of had to learn a little bit of Amharic as but you were in international school, but just like to get around with the people they're interacting with, you had to learn some of that language. And then going to Brussels, and then it's either Dutch or French. So and we were on the French side, so like learning the French, and then to Yemen, learning the Arabic. So you're constantly thrown not in another country, but also in another culture. So you have to learn that culture and another language and make new friends. As a child, that was very, very hard. So the first year, I'm crying. I want to go back. I want my friends. I don't want to be here. You know, that happened the same first year in Belgium. First happened my first year in Yemen. And then it also happened the first year when I came back to the US.
Mm.
So always that's like happening. It's interesting. Yeah, so because you form your
Mhm.
friendships. So this is where I spent up until 10th grade. So I was in that in Yemen. Where I formed my friends who I am friends with until today. One of whom is my marathon runner friend who, is living in Texas now. Another friend I have who from there is now living in Miami. Another one is living in Canada. We all met at the World Cup final this year.
Mhm.
Like so it's yeah, so these friends they don't end. And then after that, we came to my father was assigned here at the Yemen embassy in DC. That was his
Okay.
final assignment. And this is when we came back. And I was in 10th grade. Um, Same thing. First year was transition. I didn't want to be here. I want to go back to Yemen where my
Mhm.
friends are. My dad was like, well, you're going to be starting college soon. This is where you're supposed to be. This is a good, this is what you need to be thinking about. I'm like, I don't want to go to college. I want to go back to Yemen. Um, but then that first year passed, and then I started making new friends here and liking my school and my area. And now I don't see myself. And this is where we've settled
Mm.
since then. Because my father, he finished the assignment, had a few more assignments, but since I've already started college at that time, this is where he decided to like buy a house and retire and for us to settle down here because it was a good time and good area to be.
So you've lived in many places. So now you're settled, uh, then in the States
Yeah,
on the East Coast. If I ask you where is home,
here, DC. I would say, yeah, Virginia, DC. But then I would also Yemen. I mean, I am Yemeni by blood, right? It's my parents are Yemeni. I was born here. So I always have this like I'm a Yemeni American, or depending on the circumstance, I could be either I am Yemeni or I am American, So it's depending on the situation or circumstance of where I am. Um, Yemen has recently gone through war. So many changes have happened. The Yemeni people don't have any control of their jobs, the education. So it's very difficult not to consider it being home at this time because it's not the home that how it was when I was there.
yeah, no, I get that. It if I would ask the same questions to your siblings, would they say the same thing? And I'm asking because you have a big age difference, right? So
Yeah.
maybe their journey has been somehow different.
Yeah.
Uh, I mean, it's similar, but they were at different ages. So.
Right, right. Yeah, so when we came here, I was 15. So I was the oldest, right? So I'm the one that had most of the worldly experience than my other kids, my other siblings' kids. So for example, my youngest sister, all she knows is here. She was born in DC, born and raised, doesn't know anywhere else. Um, and then all the others, they were not much more older, so they were also relatively young. So for them, this is home, 100%. My sister, who's in New York now, she's the one who had the similar experience than me. For her, if you ask her where's home, New York. Yeah, this is like where she's lived and settled and studied, and like she's an optometrist and she has her license to practice in New York as well.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, for us, but my kids, on the other hand, say something else. My kids
Oh,
would
they
say
do.
Yemeni.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So they've lived very few years there, but they have that thing ingrained in them. It's like, I'm Yemeni. I'm like, great. You also American. Yeah, mom, but yes, I'm Yemeni. I'm like, okay. Because they feel that I try very hard to also teach them about their culture, their religion, their in a place where they may not be directly exposed to it. So I
Hmm.
feel like I need to do the extra work to teach them that and keep them with their roots as well.
So that they're aware of both. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Um, so let us go. Your dad said, you need to find your way, Rima. Although the first year is difficult, you go to college here. You didn't want, but ultimately, I know that you went.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, how did that come about? I mean, why? What did you ultimately choose to study, and why that direction? Tell us about it.
Sure. Yeah, so after the first year, I was all about colleges, and that my as a child, I've changed so much growing up, right? And I've learned to adapt so much to different things. I always am resistant in the beginning, and then I just adapt to it. It's also part of who I am today, like very adaptable to different situations because of just how I was raised. Um, so I went to George Mason University here in Virginia. I wanted something that's close to my family. I mean, as the eldest child, it was just unheard of for someone at an 18-year-old to go away from their parents and live somewhere else, and not be in the house. That was just like not, my siblings did it, but no, not me. um, so I had to stay within the vicinity. So I applied to the colleges in the area and I chose George Mason. And I studied finance. That was my bachelor's degree. I was always good with numbers. And I was actually ahead of my class in math when I came here. So I would do I mean, the advanced math classes, and got college credit when I was in high school. And all my classmates would hate on me because I'm this new person that came from Yemen, and she's also already advancing, and how come? And I was a threat, and I was a threat to those very competitive classmates that I've had in my class. So it was known that the class that I entered was very competitive. So we were all like seeking that the honors, the uh, degree, the ranking, the first,
Hmm.
second, third, So when I come as a person who from a third world country, they don't expect that to be a threat. But then I became one really quickly. So I made enemies, let's say, female enemies, uh, which was a and it's funny because we still know each other today, and we still have that resentment to one another.
Where did you get that competitiveness? Where did you get that from?
Huh. Where did I get that? That's a good question. I don't know where I got that. I always knew I was very competitive from a young age. When I did not understand something, I would cry as a child. because I did not understand it. And I would not sleep until I understood it, right? Like I would, uh, at that time, there was no internet. So I would ask my dad. My dad was a very well educated person, so he would know, right? But then if he didn't, I had a whole encyclopedia set in my house. I would travel with the encyclopedia set. That's how obsessed I was with it. So not today you have everything in the back of your hand, right? On a phone. But now it's like, oh, we're gonna go to France this weekend, mommy. And I'll bring like 3 books of my encyclopedia set with me to read in the car because I had to do a certain project. Uh so you can say I was a nerd at some point. Or maybe throughout my life, but yes. Um so I was always this I had to understand what it was. I had to get good grades. I had to be the top of my class. That was always ingrained in me from the beginning.
Mm.
My father also just to maybe it was because of my father. He was the so when he graduated in so he learned he studied in Yemen. In Yemen, the top 3, so there's a whole ministry level exam, and the
Mm.
top 3 get scholarships to other countries to study college. So my dad, at his time when he graduated, he was the top in the country. So he got a scholarship. He went to Iraq. He got a scholarship, so he studied there. Um, then he studied his master's in Washington State in the U.S. In political affairs, also scholarship, and then came back to Yemen to work for the Ministry of Affairs. So he had that also competition. I think I got it from him. I think
Mm.
that's a short answer.
Yeah. And because when you were talking about Yemen, you mentioned to us that Yemen is a very well, you were the only girl at the market, right?
Yeah.
And so I can imagine that it was kind of not common that girls would study. But that was not something that was an issue for your dad, right? I mean, if I understand you well, even he was pushing.
Yeah.
So where did he get that from? Because he was raised in that culture, in that environment. But
Yeah.
he had. It seems when I was listening to you, well, he didn't care about what was
The,
common.
yeah.
He brought you to the market, so he wants you to study. So
Yeah.
where did he get that from?
That's a very good question, and I wish I can ask him that. I don't know. And he was one of the very few Yemeni men at his time who did that, right? Like very few people were into letting their girls go to the market, for example, right? Or get a good education. Or I mean, he had no problem. Even if I got accepted to an out of state university, go to a university there. It was my mom who had that restriction. No. So it was there was a balance between my mother and my father. Um, he for him his priority always, no matter what, was get your education, and get good grades. And everything that he every decision in his life is based on education. Like the place that he decided to buy a house, the first thing he looks at is the school system, right? The first in any country that we go to, the first thing he looks for is which good school, right? So that was always what made his decisions is the education. So the education is number one, and then good nutrition for him is number two. So he had to eat like wholesome food, right? So that's why the market comes. That we have to go get our fruits and vegetables from the market every week. The chicken, get it like and have it cut up at home and
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Good.
So those are the top two things, and then
Mm.
everything else doesn't matter.
You, I mean, you already mentioned that you cannot ask him anymore because he recently passed away, right?
Yeah.
Um, and well, I know you were close with him, but let me ask you a question in terms of if he would no, if I would ask, it would be able to ask him a question about his sons and daughters in terms of those two things, education and nutrition. Yeah, is he proud on are his children, following him in his footsteps there?
Yeah. Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah. So uh we would say mashallah, right? This is like a it's a term to say like it's a to say how proud you are of somebody for achieving something very very big. So uh all of us, mashallah, we have good jobs, right? We have grown up to be like we have really used up all the opportunities he has provided us. Like we wouldn't be here. We wouldn't be here today without him, right? He gave us the steps to be where we are today. So, like, I grew up in the field of finance and business, and my mother says that she's like, I have a finance person, I have I have a doctor, I have. She like, just highlights our achievements. So I grew up in the field of finance and business, right? So right now I currently serve as CFO. And my sister, the one after me, is a doctor of optometry. So, getting that medical degree. My third brother is a manager at a Trader Joe's here in Virginia. So, he's the one who just does not like school. Of course, you have to have one in a family. This will not, but he's doing well, like in terms
Mhm.
of career wise, right? Just for school wasn't for him. He decided, of course, that was my dad's biggest like problem is how can he not finish his schooling? But I think he learned to accept it. And then
Mm.
at the end, they were actually the ones that are really close to each other. He was always with him. He took him to every appointment. He's his right hand man. So this is like the oldest brother. Um, my third, my or number four, he is a cardiologist at Innova Fairfax Hospital, which is down the street. So he is on his fellowship. He's doing his fellowship there. He studied at Johns Hopkins University, and yeah, so like in the 2 years, he's going to be starting to work, and so we had that cardiologist. Then number five, he barely pushed through, but he's still young. He's 25 now or 26. He's working in enterprise car rentals. Loves his job. Gets us great discounts when we travel. Doing a marketing thing for him too. He's excellent salesperson. Like if you need anything in sales, like as an intern, he was when he was back in school, he was doing for State Farm Insurance. He sold so many policies. But so yeah, put him anywhere. He's very great at selling. He's also very good with numbers. Computes large calculations in his head without the need of a calculator. And then the youngest, the baby, Farah, she's in dental school right now. So we have three kids as doctors, right, in the
Mhm.
family, which is a big achievement. So
Mhm.
he would be proud. So when he just passed 4 months ago, uh, so our youngest sister, she was crying because he wasn't going to be there when she graduated.
Yeah.
Like this was for him the highlight. Attending our graduations, he was the happiest at that time.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Um, no, and it's and well, that's great. That's great to hear that. And I'm sorry. Yeah, I know about this, of course. But sorry about your loss, and it's tough always to lose one's parents. I would like to ask you though, is okay, go back to college, you're good in numbers, you had your bachelor's. So, and I know that you're working for JLI, the Joint Learning Initiative of Faith in Local Communities. How did you end up at JLI? And tell us shortly, what your role is.
Yeah, great. Okay, so before joining JLI, I had a work gap because that's when I had my kids. So I was a stay-at-home mom for a few years. And then when I decided I was ready to go back to work, I wanted something part-time. So I was looking for part-time finance, and there was that opening, and it was like part-time uh, finance assistant. Of course, I was more qualified than a finance assistant, but I mean, for me, it was convenient. It was in DC. It was, a couple of days a week. And that's what I needed at that time to get back into work. So when I was being interviewed, and so Stacy at that time, who was the one interviewing me, she's like, "Oh, you're overqualified for position. You do understand this is a finance assistant position?" I'm like, "Yes." She's like, "Why do you want to do it?" And I told her, because I have two young kids at home, and I'm still trying to get back. And she's like, "Okay, okay, let's start." And then I was hired at that time. So we would go into DC. Um, so we would do 2 days in DC and then 1 day from home. Oh, I was only like up to 3 days a week at that time. So we were already doing the remote thing before COVID. We already had the Zoom set up. We had the JLI shared drive set up. How to the documents, the virtual sharing. That we were already adept before COVID even started at that time. So I joined in October of 2018. At that time, it was Jean Duff, the founder of JLI, who was our big boss. Very fascinating woman. Like, she's a power force all on her own. Learned a lot from her. She was very patient as I was learning, the new things. I remember making some mistakes and I was horrified. And she would just approach it like it's not a big deal. For me, it was more, like there was a board email that I was sending and I made some mistakes in that email. And then when it was already sent, and then I was just like, hey, it's okay. It's not a big deal. So now this is why I double check everything before I before I send things out. Um and yeah, so we did that up until COVID. Um Let me back. Yeah, so and as you know, there was work from home policy, so it was easy for us to just transition back to fully remote, and that's what we have been since then. So JLI was a fully remote organization as of February of 2020, and since then we didn't have any organization. I mean, sorry, any physical location. The physical location was previously housed in Chorus at that time, or IMA World Health. That was the name of it. We had a few cubicles at the back of the office, but then now we don't. Now we meet in person, like as in different places, or if we have board meetings at our in person. Um, Kirsten came on board in June of 2020. At that time, I was a manager, like a program manager. So I was helping with like just the budgets of all the programs and the reporting and the administrative tasks and still the finance assistant tasks. We were hiring a finance manager at the time. So when Kirsten came, and then I was like, I think I can do it. But she's like, she continued to the search process, right? But I was very timid when I asked. I wasn't sure, at that time. I don't know why. I was already full time at that time, but I was still a consultant. I was not on payroll. Uh so I was doing ad hoc positions. I did a lot of volunteer work as well. I was volunteering as like a treasurer, right? In my school, my kids' schools and whatnot. Um So we continued the hire process. We hired somebody. She came on board for, I would say, maybe 2 months. Didn't work, wasn't a great fit for JLI, right? At some point, me and Kirsten met, and I was like, you know what? I think I can do that position. She's She's like, why didn't you say that? I'm like, I did say that. She's like, you should have been more forceful. I'm like, you know what? I should have been more forceful about it. She's like, okay. Then that's how I became the finance manager at JLI. So I did it. It was a great learning experience, but then I was also like capable of it, right? And it did a lot of structural changes, implemented a lot of compliance and internal controls, and the things that because JL had never had a finance manager before, so we needed that position to really set up the JLI operations. So Olivia at that time, she was like, love. She said, I'm seeing the changes and I appreciate all that's happening right now. Um, so I take ownership of all these protocols that have happened. Very proud of it as well. And then when you came on in 2023, that's when I got the promotion, the director of finance. Then, yeah. And then, as you know, just less than a year ago, I became the CFO.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I can tell the listeners that you're doing really an excellent job. One of the things that you are going to do is also being part of fundraising, which you have always been, but we have JLI is, identified this year a campaign. And last year we had it also, but now we are doing it more collectively. And the campaign is a 100-mile campaign, which is, the predecessor of this particular podcast as well. So
Yeah.
this year we are asking people to help us to reach 100 mile together. Noor, our colleague, started in Islamabad, where he walked close to 20 miles. Then we had, I also think myself, actually, in New York. We had somebody from the JLI community, Susie, in Boston. We had Elvin 2 weeks ago, I think, who walked in Kenya. And you are planning to walk in DC. So I have a question around that. Why are you walking? That extra mile. Why are you contributing to that 100 mile?
Yeah. Okay. So I've seen JLI grow, right? I feel like I've invested a lot into JLI, and that is part of who I am today. Um, for me, walking for JLI, I think is the best cause, right? This is part of who I am today, right? Part of my independence, part of the part of the reason of why I can sustain my life and my kids' life. Um, it's and the work that JLI does, right? Involving faith actors and the evidence building and the research capacity and local roots, local organizations, right? Like getting the voice from underrepresented communities is the reason of why I'm walking, right? I know what underrepresented community is. Um, I have the opportunity. Me myself, right? Given that I am in the DMV area, have the opportunity to amplify those voices. Um, Sometimes we need these connections, right, for that to happen, because somebody in a local community in East Africa, right, to have their voice heard from someone in DC, that's where we stand at. This is where we're standing. And given my proximity to the area and to several board members that are here, so we have board members from Georgetown University, from George Mason University, from ADRA, from the Salvation Army, all of who are located in this area. So I plan to reach out to them individually to have them also join the walk at whatever time convenience. I'm going to lay out my itinerary and time and anticipated time when I'll be there, and they can join at any time. So I will have my route planned in DC, going through Georgetown University, and then like ending up at the National Mall, where the Monument and Capitol Hill are, just to hit the landmarks, the famous landmarks. and I hope it's going to be a good day.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
that's great. And I well, the folks can go to 100mile.org to learn more. But just a quick, marketing thing. When will you walk? What is the day? The date?
September 25th.
September 25th. So if they can go to 100 Mile, they can see how they can support you, or walk with you, or decide maybe to walk in their own vicinity and then be part of the larger campaign. So I think it's great that you are doing it, and the different people of our community are putting their shoulders in supporting not only the organization but also the work of the organization, what it stands for, as you mentioned. Focusing on the importance of faith actors, research, mutual learning, etc. That's great. Um, Rima, you know that I've been doing that walk since
Yeah.
2012, right? Although this year I only quote unquote walked 20. Although people are pushing me now to do another walk in October. I don't know if I will do that. But during those walks, at a certain moment, I get pain in my knees, and I ask myself, why am I walking? And what's the purpose of all of this? And when I think about the purpose, and sometimes when I'm accompanied with somebody, we talk about the purpose of life. And then we often talk about religion and spirituality. And then the next step is we often talk about how is the younger generation thinking about that and experiencing that. So I have a question for you about that, the younger generation. And you have children yourself, you have younger sisters. Um, yeah, what trends, what do you see happening among younger people in your community, right? Because otherwise it gets too big. But in your community, the younger folks that you are connecting with or talking with or seeing, what do you see is happening with them around religion and spirituality?
Yeah. Well, I don't envy the young folk right now, right? They are living in a time of great distraction. So there's like lots of opposing uh, factors happening, right? Like lots of people are discovering themselves, lots of people are questioning, lots of people are exposed to information that may or may not be true, right? The advancement of artificial intelligence also is disrupting many of the thinking, right? It could be, and just navigating, like if you don't have any sort of background, is navigating what is true and what's not. It can also be a very, very challenging, especially in terms of religion. Um, so all of that combined makes it very hard, right? To to be in line with certain belief or continue right in certain belief. I think it is part of us as older people to really like in terms of religion, right, set out like this is what it is, this just like the groundwork, the education, the information, right, that is available, that is the what is there to present to the youth and to guide them through that. um because a lot of distractions, like for example, if you go into a supermarket and you see the different brands of cereal, don't you get distracted of which one that you need to select? It's very hard to make a decision based on extreme availability. um for me, I am a Muslim. I'm raising my kids also Muslim, right? So it takes a lot of learning and time and teaching to, first of all, myself to learn, right? Because we're always learning. We don't know everything. And then teach it the right way of how it's intended to be taught. Um, and I'm sure lots of the other religions are like the same way, right? I don't know now, but I don't see. I think that people going to your local mosque or church or synagogue have also decreased. People are now more in a virtual space. They don't go to your local faith center for information. that in itself is also a challenge, right? Just that connection with faith, I think, is very important. It gives you back the peace, the serenity, just the decompression that you need in this very fast-paced world, right? And it just also the fact that it is a fast-paced world creates more stress, more disconnection also.
How was that for you? Because you moved a lot around until you was
Yeah.
15, right? So um how did what's the role of your parents within that in you know your um your growth within that?
Yeah. So my mother is a very traditional person. She's also very religious. Recently though, not in her early years. In her earlier years, she was more of she didn't have the what do you say? She's not battling technology. Right now she says she's battling technology, especially with my younger kids, right? And teaching them the value of religion. Before, when I was growing up, she would just took it for granted. Oh, she's going to learn. So she didn't put the effort that's needed because again, the community was there to help you teach. So the Yemeni system is that you know how it takes a whole village to raise a child. It's basically that's what it is. But when you're in another country where you don't have that village to raise a child, it becomes very hard because you're the person that you become the village. And putting that village onto one person is a whole burden on its own. So I like at her later years, she struggled with that idea of like the younger siblings have to learn it. So it became more of a forceful thing because again, she also didn't have the resources or the learnings to do that. So now me seeing I mean, me having more resources and more knowledge and more opportunities, I feel like I can filter out what's really good or what works and then putting it in my kids in a way that is not forceful, but then also not too relaxed so that there's a good balance. I mean, I'm still learning. It's an ongoing thing. It's not and then we'll see what works and whatnot. But whatever it is, somebody has to give their best. And then the rest is up to God.
I know mornings are not really your deal, but I'm going to ask you a question about mornings anyway.
Yeah.
What makes you getting out of your bed in the morning? What drives you?
What drives you know, my friend said right now when we were actually recently, like when we went to the World Cup uh watch party in Central Park, she said the hardest thing about you is getting up. But once you get up, it's hard to put you down. I just keep going, that even like it's just going. So I think for me, yeah. So the hardest part, and that's true. I just never thought about it that way. My hardest thing is getting up, right? But I get up because I know I have a full day ahead of me, right? And I'd have to and I'm very scheduled because not only do I have work, right? I have also the responsibility of my children, of my mother, of my siblings, being the oldest child, of my kids' activities, of my volunteer work. I'm very active in like also my social community here, in the Yemeni community here. Um, in the school, like I'm, volunteering. I'm the board treasurer of the high school that my kid is at. Uh, Considering also like board positions in the wider county school. Um, so in order to be successful in all of that, right? It's you have to be very disciplined and very scheduled and um like I know that if I fall behind, then everything else falls behind. So this is really what drives me up is that hey, I have a full day. It's exciting, but 10 more minutes on the snooze button and then I'll get up.
Mm. Oh, that's funny. Okay, Rima, these conversations always go fast. I do have a couple of questions that I
Yeah.
want to ask you. So we go a little bit more into a rapid fire. So, quick questions, quick answers if possible. You know that what I hope to achieve with this podcast is connecting people, because I think if people are connected, then they start maybe discussing with each other, and we need more of that in this polarized world. Um, so I have a question for you from the previous guest, and the question is,
Can he or she share a moment in their life when listening changed their perspective more than speaking? And maybe what did that experience teach them?
Actually, it's a very, very good question. Um, I was always, or from what I was told, is that I'm a very difficult listener because I like to speak. Okay. So, and then if I listen and I don't agree with it, then I defend. So I have that in itself, listening to that helped me to stay quiet and to really like just see their perspective, right? To see what they mean about me. Like what is it that they find fault with me, right? And it comes it, I wouldn't say it's one person. It could be it was from, my siblings, uh from my ex-husband, from my parents also, that I'm stubborn. I like to have things go my way. That I need to sit and listen, okay, to what they're telling me. So once I just stopped going at it from the defensive, right? Like I'm not there just to defend myself and actually listen to what they have to say. And whether I agree with it or not, but actually just listen, right? And then not not speak right away. I think that's just helped me understand myself more. Not necessarily if I agree with it or not, but how people see me, maybe. You know what I mean? And then I can use that as a start of conversation. Of okay, why do you think that way? Okay, no, I don't think this way. And then that has opened up to much more understanding and clarity and connection as well. Helped me become more closer to my siblings, for example. Has helped me defend myself better, like if I disagree with it, and then they realize something that they haven't realized before. Um, Similarly, like I think in the professional sense, I know me and you, we always talk, right? We don't necessarily agree on the same thing, but we have learned to, I guess, communicate more clearly, right? About this is this is what you say, this is what I say, but okay, this is what we're gonna address, right? And find how we're gonna move forward from what we're discussing. Um, so yeah, so this is, I said, part of growth. My question for the next guest would be, and I can write it down, but who in your life, has been a great influencer in the person you have become today and why? And if you can ask what, if you can provide a specific example.
okay. Um, well, and music is very important to me, right? We often talk about, hey, what have you seen? Where did you listen to? So I have a question about music always.
Yeah.
Some people consider that the most difficult question.
Yes.
If I ask you to come up with a piece of music or a song that best embodies, for a big part, what you are about, what Rima is about, which song or piece of music would that be, and why?
Yeah. So you're right about this being the most difficult question. I mean, you sent me, like, we decided to have a podcast earlier today, right? And then so I'm skimming through the questions really quickly, and this is the one that stopped me. I'm like, oh no, okay, because I have a wide. If you see my playlists, it's a wide variety of I mean, you would say this is a confused person, right? From just like the differences of I have in my musical playlist. So I had to sit down for a few minutes, like disconnect myself and be like, okay, what is it that like? So I'm scrolling through my playlist and I selected one song. It's an Arabic song. It's called Three Friends. I mean, it's Thalath Ashab, which means three friends. It's in Arabic. Um, do I play it or do I just tell you some phrases from the lyrics? I think I'll just it's a nice song. I can send you the link later, okay? But it's basically so I had to Google translate it, right, from Arabic to English, but essentially this is what it is. So three friends walk the road again and again. Three friends who come out of battle every day. Doors close in their faces, but they open 1,000 more. They build dreams, real ones, and reach them with time. Their passion creates the reasons to keep going, and their story is called Three Friends. Um, so the three friends is for me is me and my two kids. You know, so we're like battling life together. They may not necessarily consider me the same thing from their point of view. They're teenagers, right? But I know in time that they would consider us to be the three friends that battle things together. Yeah.
Okay. And we will, no, thank you for that. And we will add that song to the playlist that we made. When you go to Spotify and you search for hashtag Walk Talk Listen, you will find all the songs, you know, including this one now. So no, thank
Okay.
I have had another one. Oh yes, I would like to go back for a second to your listening, uh, the listening question, and um, you know, we I always show the ducky, and this is actually a kind of a giraffe ducky. There are different duckies, right, of the usual duckies, and the ducky is that metaphor for Ernie is always walking around with a ducky, and if he wants to learn how to play the saxophone, he needs to put his ducky down first because you need two hands. And we use it in terms of, hey, people, if you listen, if you have discussions with each other, sometimes you need to put that ducky down so that you can really listen to the other, and then you can pick up your ducky after that. And and basically that's what you explained, right, in terms of listening. Sometimes you listen, and how do you do that to get rid of some of your assumptions? So what is your ducky?
The ducky that I have to put down.
Hmm. Not always, but sometimes.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good question. It's a very good question. What is my ducky? My ducky, maybe it's stress. Um, but we have to go through. I think no, we have. For me, well, see, look, when I have like stress and anxiety, it's more like, oh my god, and then I start to like clutter everything, right? And I think for us to just maybe take a step back and be mindful, right? That again, it's like, hey, let's take the one things one step at a time. Let's divide it into one thing at a time, right? And don't it doesn't need to be done now. It can wait. There's always ways to adjust. There's always ways to break it down into more manageable tasks. Um, but I don't know if stress is the right word. Maybe it's apprehension, I think. Yeah, that I need to put down. But then I can also add stubbornness.
Yeah. Well, I see some similarities in a previous answer that you provided in terms of what makes you to get out of your bed, and you said,
Yeah.
well, getting out is one, but then you're not unstoppable. Basically, you go right, and sometimes maybe you need to slow down also in terms of listening. So instead of going there where you want to go, because you already know, but sometimes it's good to hear from the other
That's true.
where you should go. Um, Rima, thank you so much for your willingness to talk with me today, and also on a short notice. I really appreciate that. Appreciate everything you do for JLI. This is unbelievable, and you do for me. And I really enjoy talking with you today, although we almost talk with each other on a daily basis, work-wise. So, but it was cool. Um, so yeah, keep on doing what you do. Thank you for who you are, and yeah, all the best.
Thank you, Maurice. Thank you. I look forward to seeing the recording.
Thank you for listening to Walk, Talk, Listen. Please check us out on unheardmile.org or follow us on Facebook or Instagram.